Great. Well, I've got four topics today that I'd like to touch on briefly, and Joe's going to prompt me so that I don't spend more than about 15 minutes, so there's plenty of time for questions. Let me start with probably the one that I hope is on everyone's mind, although it's easy to forget right now, and that's flood. We are in the midst of the third major flood in 6 years. And I think that's a significant subject to keep on the table. I have to say that I continue to be amazed and pleased by the response of the people on this campus with regard to the natural disasters that we're experiencing on a more regular basis than any of us would like. A week ago, we were certainly getting information from the Coralville Reservoir and the dam that was alarming, to say the least. The predictions were that the water would once again go over the spillway. The good news over the past week has been that that's not likely to happen, but we're now expecting some more rain over the weekend, so we'll just have to wait and see. But right now, things have stabilized to the point where really the two buildings that are most involved on our campus, at least in floodwaters right now, are the Mayflower Residence Hall and the Beckwith Boathouse. I'm anxious, actually, to see whether or not the Beckwith Boathouse took on water this time. The river is higher this year than it was last year. We barely missed having water in that building last year, but remember, that building was built to flood. That's part of the reason why, as these events are happening, I've been curious to see how well the building holds up in a real flood. So we'll see perhaps next week as the water starts to go down, and we hope it will continue to go down, according to current predictions at least. We'll be able to get into that building and see exactly what's happened in there and whether or not, if water has gotten in there, it's as easy to clean out as we think it should be. So an interesting prospect. Mayflower, unfortunately, we've had to stop the construction process in front of Mayflower. For me, the anticipation is that all of the projects, all of the flood mitigation projects that are currently underway should be completed by next summer. So if we go through a third event, another one, actually it would be the fourth flood in 7 years if we had another one next summer, but we would be far better prepared to handle it going forward on a permanent basis. We wouldn't need to put the HESCO barriers up in front of the Mayflower. We wouldn't need to take the measures that we're taking in front of the Iowa Advanced Technology Laboratory and the Iowa Memorial Union. We would still need, obviously, to make certain that our power plant and water plant were protected. So that would be the main focus of interest in coming years if we were to experience another flood. It would be nice to think that these 100, 500-year flood events were going to lessen, but all bets are off. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. So that's my first topic, and be happy to come back to that and answer any questions you might have. Maybe the most amazing thing was how fast we were able to put up all the protection on campus. The invisible wall took about 48 hours to install last year. Around Art Building West, it took 18 hours this year. So we're getting that time. Our contractors who do that work for us are getting better and better at it. Similarly, constructing those HESCO walls along both sides of the rivers. Last year it took about 3 days to do it. We had it completed in less than 48 hours. And last year it was about 7 linear miles of HESCO barriers. I believe it's 4 linear miles this year. So we're putting up fewer. We can anticipate a little bit better what we think the water levels are going to be and how much protection we think we need along the banks of the river should we continue to experience these kinds of events. So overall, I couldn't be more pleased with ways in which we've been able to respond, both in terms of speed, in terms of keeping costs down, in terms of keeping people safe. And maybe I should have put keeping people safe first, because that's been one of the primary reasons why we use contractors now to do the flood preparations rather than volunteers. It made me very, very nervous in 2008 when we had thousands of volunteers along what was a very, very dangerous flooding river. So glad not to have to do that. As a result, we haven't had any interruption in activities on campus. We had to move one class. To move a class out of Art Building West when we put the invisible wall up around that building. We had a summer school class going on in there, and that was moved. But other than that, everything is pretty much right on schedule and right on target. Hopefully we can get back into the Mayflower Residence Hall in about 10 days or so and begin to get that ready for the fall semester. We absolutely need that residence hall for the fall semester. Now that segues nicely into the second topic I wanted to talk about, which has to do with summer school and a summer program that we instituted this year that I'm quite proud of. I would say that as we've spent the last 6 years recovering from the major flood in 2008, we've not really been in a good position to think about growth or expansion in any real sense of those terms, growth and expansion. But we can begin to think about that now, and of course we're prompted to do that through the new funding model that the Regents have put in place. But our focus for the last 6 years has really been on improving what we call student success and how our students progress through their academic careers to that end result of a college degree. Can we do that better? And if so, how? One of the programs that we put in place this summer that I think is going to gain considerable traction, we got about 300 students in this program this summer, is called our Summer Hawk Tuition Grant Program. So we've got about 300 students on campus right now that are going to summer school for free. This was a program that we instituted for this past year's freshman class. So if you are in the freshman class, you are eligible throughout your college career now for 12 semester credits, free credits of summer school. So say you wanted to stay next summer and do 3 credits in summer school, you can go basically tuition free. And we've got, like I say, several hundred students taking advantage of that right now. Why are they doing that? Well, in some cases it's giving them a leg up. It's giving them that extra class they might need to prepare them for their major. In some cases, it's really to reduce expense. And that was one of our goals, was to try and reduce the time and expense of getting to the end result of a 4-year college education. So I think next year, as this program continues to grow in popularity, because of course from here on out, we're going to continue to grow it. This incoming freshman class will also be eligible for the Summer Hawk program. So as our students are coming in, more and more of them will be eligible to have that 12, and they can use that 12 hours virtually any time that during their careers here. So let's say they get to their senior year, they need that one last class to graduate. Instead of coming back in the fall semester, they can go for free in the summer and hopefully finish up and do so in an even more timely fashion than otherwise. We have capacity in the summer. You know, we run summer classes and we run summer school, but it's I think we only have about 8,000 or 9,000 students on campus usually during the summer. So this is an opportunity to also increase the number of students who are taking advantage of summer school. The third topic I want to segue to, and that is to just mention a couple things on sexual assault. Last year I put in place the 6-point plan on sexual assault. Let me just give you an update. I had some time yesterday with Tom Rockland, and we went over the progress that we've been making on each of the 6 points. And we are making good progress on every one of them. In a few cases, we've actually completed some of these points. For example, night ride is, we expanded night ride almost right away. One of the other things that we did, and a lot of this is in response to the comments that we heard from students in particular during the listening session that we had last year, and we will be planning another listening session for the next academic year. Tom and I talked about timing of that and what would be the best timing. Obviously, the best timing is when everyone's back on campus, so it won't happen until the fall semester. And we're working with the student advisory group to see what dates work best for them and fit in my calendar and other calendars. So that will be coming along as well. We have a new course, a new online course. We heard from students last year, some of them weren't happy with the online course that we had, so we're trying a new product this fall. We've tested it on some students, and some students who were in fact critical of the first one. They feel this is a better product, so we're going to test it and see how it works and whether or not we get a good response from it. But we continue to look for what the best models and products are that are out on the market that we can use as our first training opportunity, our first educational opportunity for our students on this important topic. And then just one last piece on the 6-point plan. One of the things that I was able to do this summer was to shore up and designate additional funding for the sexual assault nurse practitioners. There was great concern on the part of community members that money was running out to support the nurse practitioners who are on the front lines of treating victims of sexual assault. So that program will remain not only in place but funded for the foreseeable future. So again, good progress on each of the 6 points. In some cases, we've completed a few things. In some cases, work in progress. We promise the walkabouts on campus with our public safety officials, and that will happen this fall again when the students are back on campus and we can get a student group together to go with our public safety folks and see where we need to do additional things on campus to make the campus itself safer for all students. And then my fourth and final topic goes to another piece of our mission that's very, very critical, and that's research. And believe it or not, I want to talk about eagles and lions. Maybe it's the zoology background that I have, but eagles and lions today. Now, why eagles and lions? Well, let me start with eagles. I think you probably all know the Fraternal Order of Eagles has funded a diabetes research institute here at the University of Iowa. And that Diabetes Research Institute, the FOE, Fraternal Order of Eagles Diabetes Research Institute, will be housed, is moving into, as we speak, the new Papa John Biomedical Discovery Building. That building is about to open. I hope all of you will take an opportunity to go over and see this new facility, this state-of-the-art research facilities, and state-of-the-art not only in terms of the science that will go on in there, but for us it's significant because all of the science that will go on in this facility will be interdisciplinary in nature in order to solve these big problems like diabetes. And diabetes is a huge problem, not only in this country, but all around the world today. To be able to solve these problems is going to take more than just some small group of researchers from some small unit over in the Carver College of Medicine to do it. We know that. So a little over a year ago, we hired a director for the center. His name is Dale Abel. Dr. Abel came from the University of Utah. He is a fascinating individual, just on a personal basis, but he is a world-class researcher in the diabetes research area. And he is in the process of recruiting some phenomenal young scientists. And just within the last month or so, we've attracted an individual from Harvard. We've attracted another individual from, I'm drawing a blank. Where's John Ankrum from?
Oh, yeah, I have to look that up.
All right, but
It's prestigious, though.
He's a very prestigious researcher. So we're really attracting some very, very fine people and working in all areas. Everything from hypertension, because we know that diabetes, the connection between hypertension and diabetes is tight, to we have a researcher who works on a tie between diabetics with cancer. You can imagine there's some real challenges if you are a diabetic and you develop cancer. This is not trivial, to say the least. So now you're tying two major diseases together and trying to figure out what the best treatments and what the best practices are for dealing with these rather complex medical issues going forward. Large teams of researchers over there. I would encourage you to perhaps have a sit down at some point with Dale Abel and get the full rundown on the spectrum of the research that's going on over there. One of my favorite research topics that I know is part of the Diabetes Research Center happens to be a young, and I call him young because he happens to be someone that I actually taught biology to as an undergraduate when he was a student years ago at Kansas and I was a professor there in biology. And this young man, Chris Adams, is doing work on natural compounds and the way in which some of these natural compounds have an influence on certain metabolic and physiological processes. And I'll give you one example. In the skin of apples, there's a compound called ursolic acid. And he discovered that ursolic acid has some very positive effects on muscle cells. One of the things that researchers have been looking for years is there a way to try and prevent muscles from atrophying when you don't use them? So, for example, if you break an arm or a leg and they put it in a cast or they immobilize it for a while, the muscles start to atrophy. And what he discovered was that ursolic acid actually could help counteract that. And as a side effect, not only does ursolic acid help with muscle development and keeping muscles strong, but it seems to inhibit fat cells. Well, now, on the obesity and diabetics side, now we have a compound that has even more interesting effects when it comes to what it could do for diabetics, what it could do not only in terms of muscle growth and development on the one side, but also now in terms of fat cell inhibition on the other side. So research like that going on over in the Carver College, all related to this Diabetes Research Institute, and we are so grateful to the Fraternal Order of Eagles, because this is a 1 million strong organization nationwide. Actually, it's U.S. and Canada, and these are just everyday people who want to make a difference. And they've committed $25 million to this effort. And they are literally raising that $25 million $1 at a time. I've been with them almost every summer, every year for the last several years. And it is just inspiring to me to be with the Eagles and how excited they are about what's happening here at the University of Iowa.
So it's 20 after.
Uh-oh. See, I just run at the mouth. Well, let me say very quickly Lions. Let me go to Lions very quickly, because that's the Lions Eye Bank that I wanted to just mention briefly. This is something that's been going on here since 1955 over in our ophthalmology department. We provide about 1,000 corneas for transplant every year, 500 eyes and corneas for research and education purposes, and I think we're the only facility in the country that is able to produce every type of corneal tissue preparation, and we send those worldwide. And it's all about saving vision. It's all about preserving vision.